This is a single house, single family, detached from everything else. A lot of people live in them. It's new technology. Oh, it's not new technology. But I design houses, and I really like the challenges of shells, mechanical systems to work with them, and so on. So I'm just going to use this one example to talk about some aspects of one project that I found interesting to push and solve some weak links that I think exist in the world. So here's the next slide. The house is it's new construction. It's my client wanted a very traditional craftsman style house. And this is in Davis, California. The floor plan, the following page, shows a number of different things that actually the street is to the right in this diagram. So that if I had a pointer, I could show you. But one aspect about traditional craftsman homes is they're fairly underlit. They're dark houses quite often. And then on this lot, since the front door faces east and the back of the house faces west, which is brutal sun in the summer, and shading is critical in Davis. And we wanted cool outside spaces. She wanted a screened porch for a portion of it, and so on. So I'm making use of porch roofs and shading and covering windows. But at the same time, we wanted light inside. Well, we have these things called skylights that I actually don't use a lot because in many ways they're a really bad idea. You take a window, you put it in the roof, you get more light in the summer, less light in the winter. Who would have thought of these things? It's just like, but in this house, I have 4 interior skylights and 3 exterior ones. On the left is the porch, and skylights on a porch are less problematic because we're not trying to condition the porch space. But I want to talk about these 4 skylights in one of the aspects about this house. So the next slide is an interior view of that living room with the skylights. And so in this house we have flat ceilings, they're 9 foot, so they're skylight wells, which magnify the challenges of what skylights do in conventional houses. We've all seen skylight wells that these shafts with a light at the top, and spiders grow there, and they leak, and you go up in the attic, and if it ever had any insulation on the exterior of the shaft, it's probably fallen off. An incredible just energy leak. So because of these reasons, the next slide, I've been playing with these ideas of doing something better. And so what this shows, and let's start from the bottom. Well, let's start from the top. This is conventional. We have a skylight at the top. It's a Velux skylight, good skylight in terms of roof windows. But I built a shaft of melamine, which is a engineered wood with a white, durable surface, and I did that because it's reflective. So that shaft goes down. At the bottom of the skylight is an insulated glass unit that I had made up to fit that, the contractor had it made up. And then underneath that is another layer of polycarbonate that is lightly frosted. So now the assembly is a 5-pane window. I mean, most of the thermal work is done at the bottom, and it's a 3-pane window. It's an insulated glass unit and the polycarbonate underneath it. The polycarbonate also acts as the safety glass, because when you have glass above your head, it needs to be tempered or wired glass or so on. So in case it breaks, it doesn't harm anybody. And then architecturally, in a house that's modeled after an older style, the craftsman style, having a skylight that is flush with the ceiling and a glazed unit, because actually skylights even were used 100 years ago in commercial buildings and so on. They would glaze it at the ceiling. So aesthetically it works. So ultimately a number of things are happening here. Is we have the thermal and air barrier at the ceiling, which is where we want both those things. So we don't have to insulate the shaft at all, because we're not trying to capture any heat. Additionally, because the air temperature in that shaft will change and expand and contract and so on, I do have a vent at the upper left of that shaft. We use fiberglass insulation as a filter, so it doesn't get dusty and spiders move in and set up camp and so on. So, and then there's also, we have a piece of conduit, and we hang a light up in that so that we could use these skylight wells as lights at night and control that. And you know, the ultimately in the end, I mean, there's a company that does this. What's the skylight? The solar tubes. Solar tubes, which are pretty decent products, kind of. But the solar tubes actually don't have 3 layers of glazing at the bottom. They don't air seal and so on. And if you value the solar tube, you look it up, it's like 0.61. I mean, how many windows do we install that are 0.61? I mean, it's not a good idea. I mean, this is probably in the 0.26 U value, something like that. So that's one of my ideas. I wanted to share because, I don't know, I think it's progress. The next slide is up in the attic before insulation is installed. I'm just showing you the outside of the thing. And there's a hatch in there so that we can reach in and change the bulb every 25 years, you know, for the LED bulb. So, you know, it's buildable, it works and stuff. Nice. Anyway, the next slide is another version of a mechanical room. Last year I showed you one version. In this house, we're using truss roofs. This mechanical room, which is just under 6 feet tall, I'm basically building a room that is outside the thermal envelope of the house. But we have 4 inches of polyiso and then drywall on the inside of that. While it was built, it was all air sealed. It's super tight. And so we have attic stairs leading up to that. That attic stairwell is insulated and has a door at the top, as well as, because the attic stairs themselves don't provide any kind of air sealing. Let's go to the next slide. So this mechanical room runs the width of the house. So not only do I put the air handler and the HRV in there, I get half the ducting inside this R25 insulated space. And it's not the space inside the mechanical room is not conditioned, although I do have a little trickle vent of the HRV going in and pulling out, just so I can have air slowly moving through it, so that condensation doesn't occur. You know, something happens, things will go haywire. Getting the ducting out of the hot attic is a good thing, now actually required in Title 24. And then the next slide is, I love these things, they're cool spaces, is the inside of the photographs of the inside of the mechanical room, looking the left down at the HRV and the right down at the air handler. And real clean space, and in fact, it's also inside this. On the left hand photograph on the left is a doorway that goes into the attic, so that's our attic access. So we have a real sealed condition from the living space of the house to the attic access. So that's idea number 2.
And so that attic truss that you chose, I just got introduced to attic trusses relatively like 4 or 5 years ago. I was like, wow, these are so powerful to make a new space up there.
They're hugely, and you can actually design them. You just say, let's make a rectangle here. You work with them and say, yeah, no problem. And there's a lot of flexibility about it. So, and then the last is a smaller thing that on this house, it's a raised floor house by by choice. And we know how to make good crawl spaces, which we've done here. You know, there's 10 mil plastic on the soil and goes up, and the joists are 10-inch TGIs with full insulated and sheathe the underside of them with
10-inch TGIs because
I want the insulation.
You want the insulation.
R19 isn't enough, and also I have longer spans of the TGIs, just easier to work with, but robust shells. Yeah. And you can see the wall. I mean, we have 2 inches of polyiso on the outside, so we have about an R30 wall on this. Yes?
The soil prep underneath, is this because of radon, or do you do this for moisture?
We do this for moisture, yeah, to seal it. And then typically, there's been much discussion in the people that I hang around with about ventilation of crawl spaces and how bad crawl spaces are and so on. And so in doing this, and I've done other crawl spaces. Last year I presented a conditioned crawl space, and that was interesting and fun. This is unconditioned, conventional crawl space. In looking through the code, I noticed that conventional crawl spaces have a ventilation rate of 1 square foot for 50 square feet of crawl space. Not advanced. Vents 8 foot on center. I expect that many times in my life. In the building code, it gives you provision if you seal off the soil, you can have 1 square foot for every 1,500 square feet, and with a minimum requirement of 1 vent in each corner of the building. So, because this was a big discovery on my part, I thought the rest of the world might not have known. Although, in doing the research for this, I embarrassingly went back to previous codes, and it's been in the code for a number of code cycles. So I should have told you about this 9 years ago, but this conference didn't exist 9 years ago. So this last thing is just the floor plan with the 5 vents that I have. And they're conventional sized vents. I didn't feel it's worth going to the trouble to shrink those and make custom vents that I'm putting through the concrete stem wall. But it's lightly vented and appropriately vented. And also, we have a practice in the projects that I've built with crawl spaces that we're getting more action out of, being more careful with, is you can buy at Costco these temperature humidity meters and putting a sensor in the crawl space and having this humidity meter that you can reference, just so you can keep track of it. I talked to the contractor this morning about this, and he confirmed this. Oh yeah, we gave the client the humidity meter, and it's on the counter, and it tracks pretty closely to the humidity of the house, and its status is relatively dry. So if he told our clients, if it goes 5% beyond, give me a call. We'll check it out. If a pipe breaks and it's leaking, drives the humidity up, or something goes left, you can find out. So 3 small tweaks, just good ideas. Yes.
Was there a reason you avoided the mechanically vented or the crawl space in the code?
In the previous house, I had a conditioned crawl space.
Conditioned crawl space, sure.
Yeah. That we mechanically ventilated because it's required. Because you don't want stagnant air down there.
Or to the inside.
To the inside. On this one, I didn't want to spend electricity to mechanically ventilate this to the outside. So was that your?
That was the gist of my question. Just refers to insulation to the walls.
Right. Yeah, there's things you can do like that.
And for your previous point, sometimes what I see people doing is a little at an expense to they pour a little rat slab down there.
Yeah.
And install some lights, and it's like, oh, this may be a little bit more usable space. They can work on the front of their house. So back on the topics of adaptation, the future.
Right.
They don't have to rip out insulation, install plumbing or Cat 6 cable or whatever.
Right. So were you not here last winter?
Oh no.
No.
Okay.
Research visit.
Okay.
So, sorry.
Well, no apologies. I'll send you I'll get your email because I had a fabulous house last year. We had a crawl space that you could have a party in.
Yeah.
It's a very short party, but no, truly, it was fabulous. Being on the job site and doing tours, people go down and say, "Wow, this is cool."
Cool small space.
Yeah.
A new thing to add to your opulent housing.
It actually comes up a lot, and I've considered actually, man, this would be where my bedroom is. Down there.
Yeah.
It's like cool and dark, and like, oh man.
Yeah. We'll talk more. I'll get you. Yeah, Larry.
I came across a detail to keep your crawl space drier. You use a small DC fan connected directly to a solar panel. So during the day when the humidity is low and you have full sun, you get this dry air flowing into your house. It shuts off at night.
That's a
And
good
it
way to
comes
do it.
up.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah. So, any other questions, comments, Barbs?
Well done. Good luck with the house. Yeah. Yeah.